Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we just got done recording a video about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. God, what a title, right? Just call it Ant-Man 3. And we talked about how the pendulum is swinging and how the mainstream media outlets, the nerd outlets, are all saying things that YouTubers have been saying for years.
The same YouTubers they called names and
the same YouTubers, yes, that the media and Twitter would literally call you out, literally call you a Nazi if you said that the comic book industry wasn't doing so hot, if Marvel and DC wasn't doing so hot, right? The Phase 4 wasn't doing so hot. So here we have trusted journalist Rob Salkowitz writing for ICV2, which is a pretty reputable comic book, and gaming trade publication, saying that superhero comics are in a creative rut. And who's gonna fly to the rescue?
You don't say. You don't say.
What the hell?
It's like we did the video the other day and they were like trying to say, oh no, comics are fine. Comics are fine here because here's the numbers, but they didn't break it down by the fact that a lot of them were superhero comics, a lot of them were manga, however you say it.
Yeah, right. So a week ago, there was an article on comicbook.com actually talking about comic books for a change, quoting Deb Aoki, who used to write for Comics Beat. Comics Beat, by the way, we're going to bring them up because they're talking about how great it is that James Gunn is selling comics, but he's selling back issues, right? So comics are fine. So many stories out there about how comic book publishers are going out of business, comic shops are going out of business, comic book freelancers are not getting paid, and nobody seems to know how many comic books are actually being sold because I think the numbers are deliberately being hidden by the publishers because we don't want Daddy Disney and Daddy Warner to decide that it's not worth publishing comic books anymore. So we got to deliberately hide the numbers because they're bad. I'm hearing from friends that like Spider-Man is selling under 30,000 copies.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to bring that up. Yeah.
That's inconceivable. Even 5 years ago, that was inconceivable for Spider-Man to be selling that low. And people are burnt out on the X-Men. The X-Men should be a title that consistently sells between 100 and 200,000 copies a month.
Now it just stands for prom.
Now it's just a glam prom. But here we have ICV2. I can't believe it. Comics are in a creative rut. What, you don't say? Who is going to fly to the rescue?
Well, not you, because you're a little bit late to the party.
God, this is ridiculous. Let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over, what are we at? 294,000 subs? Yay! Almost 300,000 subs, so hit the subscribe button. We have been telling you the truth, or at least giving you our hot takes on the comic book industry as people who worked in the comic book industry for years and noticed changes in the comic book industry. We've been talking about for 5 years. There are people on YouTube that have been talking about longer than we have, and they've been pointing these things out, that Marvel and DC are basically broken at this point from the top down, creatively, financially, culturally, they're broken. And here at the very end, now at the very end,
you finally see?
You finally see.
So where you're going with that?
Yes.
Sorry, I ruined it for you.
Let me put on my Palpatine hood because now all of these people who have spent years, now I don't know if Salkowitz has in particular, but these people who have spent years demonizing YouTubers and saying that, it was just the alt-right Nazis, or like they're just trying to take the comic book industry. Here it is, guys. Here it is. After a few fat years during the pandemic.
That's an exaggeration.
Sure looks like periodical comics are deep into a downturn, both financially and creatively. What? January's unit and dollar sales charts are not exactly full of surprises, with various Spider-Man, Batman family titles leading the way, give or take a few stray turtles. Retailers, do these books have fans lathered with excitement? I don't know.
That's a way to say it. Right. Like lathered with excitement.
God, Turtles gets me so soapy. Heroes in a half shell, am I right? Is everyone or anyone looking forward to upcoming events like Dawn of DC? No, nobody cares. The hard numbers can be tough to figure deliberately. Reports are that sales are flat or down dating back as far as September. No,
farther than that, dude.
It's been going back further than that.
I think it passed a few fat years during the pandemic. I'm like, where?
Back issues. Back issues sold well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the pandemic, look, this is when the sales charts broke because Diamond decided they were going to crawl under the desk in the fetal position, that they were going to pause. Diamond decided, Steve Jeppy.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
No.
Jeppy, who didn't pay people and suddenly had a museum.
Yeah, we
coincidence.
Used to do work for Mr. Jeppy and friends. So the creative accounting, right? But yeah, he decided himself that he was going to pause the comic book industry, and that broke the sales charts because a lot of these publishers are like, hell no, we have to sell books because our owners, our corporate overlords are going to be like, you can't just take like 6 months off. That's not even possible. So sell comics. And then they're probably looking at people doing crowdfunding. They're like, well, these schlubs are selling comics.
Yeah, but they're rolling that into it. Like when they count these numbers, they're saying, oh, these periodicals are doing great. They counted the people selling the comics on the crowdfunders that were actually making the comics and selling them. Yep. They got rolled in there too. The ones that they don't acknowledge outside, of that, and they shit on and try to do everything they can to tank them. Their numbers count when it meets their agenda.
So here we are, guys. And a lot of these companies, they took PPP money to stay afloat. They're running out. They're not paying freelancers. So anyway, they said, outside the usual manga and kid-oriented material, sales are flat. Whatever graphic novels, webtoons, and media adaptations are doing to expand the top of the market funnel, the perennial market leaders aren't doing much to keep those readers in the pipeline without the monthly must-reads. Recent data shows superheroes are about to lose their place as the top-selling category in the US.
What do you mean about to? No. When you take outside of the manga, kid-oriented material, when you take everything that actually sells and webtoons and stuff people actually read, then these superheroes are going to lose their place in the whatever shit's left.
And that might be good for the medium if superheroes get gone, right? But it's going to hurt the direct market that depends on reliable repeat customers. So, again, for years, people in the media, comic book journalists have been saying, no, the direct market's fine. Look, a whole bunch of new comic shops open. Everybody's doing great, guys. They sold so many Funko Pops last month. Things are great. They sold so many back issues last month. Things are great. Comics have never been better. Right. Literally, they were saying that. Comics have never been better. And Heidi McDonald was one of the ones that was like, comics are great, guys. Things are fantastic. Yeah.
Which we said was bullshit then.
Manga's doing great. Is that helping most Western comic book creators make money? Hell no.
No, they pointed out graphic novels that were deal with kids' books. They have all the kids ones they roll in there, like Dog Man and all that. They're selling all kinds, but they're counting the numbers, but they're not part of that group.
So so he's basically, this is what's so aggravating about this. Just rip the fucking Band-Aid off, Rob. Rip the Band-Aid off. Because he's trying to say the same things that comic book YouTubers have been saying, but he's trying to be more polite about it. And it's like, look, it is what it effing is. And yeah, some people go hard in the paint and they say some shit about the creators and whatever, but it is what it is. The shit that's being produced right now does not sell. In fact, a lot of it actively drives away the longtime customers. Yes, you need to expand the market. You need to get new readers, but you cannot afford to lose even one regular Wednesday warrior at this point.
No, but what they're doing is they're trying to expand the market to reach new audiences by alienating their existing core audience.
Yeah.
And the new audience is so small, it wasn't worth it to begin with.
Well, here we go. Supply and demand mismatch. If there are too many books chasing not enough readers, the result is a market slowdown. 2022 saw a 7% increase in the number of monthly titles, but there's nobody to buy them. There's nobody to buy them. And the stuff that they're producing, a lot of it, there's no audience for it.
I want to hit my head. I want to go up to a wall and just bang my head off of it.
We were just at the comic shop in Pittsburgh the other day, and I was looking at the wall of comics. I'm like, there's
so many comics.
There are more single issue comics being churned out now than, and I could be misremembering this, but it seems like to my old man brain, there are more single issue monthly comic books being cranked out now than there was during the heyday back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, and you say wall, it was multiple walls. It was
multiple walls of new stuff.
At least 3 walls.
And some of it by new, I mean the last couple months, because a lot of issues were just still sitting there. Mm-hmm. And again, they're chasing. And then what happens is, so a lot of these books, they don't sell in the direct market, and retailers get stuck with them. They go to the quarter bins, dollar bins, or whatever, and then they bundle them up in a trade because that's what they were really hoping for anyways, just do a graphic novel.
They just end up at Ollie's.
And then they end up at Ollie's. That's the life cycle of comics. That is the life cycle of comic books. And don't give me the shit about digital comics because Amazon's shutting down Comixology. So obviously digital comics aren't selling nearly as well as everybody has been claiming.
And meanwhile, Dynamite's going to RPG-based comics with Pathfinder series because that's what people want.
Yes, it's almost like people are really into other media and you have to, like, comics have to attach themselves to other media. And man, they're actually in the, look, I've been critical of Dynamite, but they're actually in the right place at the right time because right now so many people are pissed off at Wizards of the Coast that you're going to sell more Pathfinder comics than you are D&D comics. Guarantee it. Stale creative process. Okay, this is what irritates me. Not to disparage the hardworking men and women who make our comic books month in and month out, but the sparkle of imagination that was at work at various points over the past 10 to 12 years seems fainter these days. Just come out and say it. The people working in comics right now are churning out a lot of dog shit. And nobody's buying it.
It's not always their fault either. It's like it's like the companies like Marvel and DC are they're trying to cash in on modern day bullshit. And what they're doing is they're changing characters for no good reason. They're making these really shitty decisions, and then they're passing like, hey, go do this. And then they're not selling because they're not characters people know.
Yep.
They're not what they grew up with. They're like, what the hell did you do? And then the stories they're giving them are so, you read books like comics, you go to the movies because you want to escape from all the shit, the day-to-day shit you have to get stuck with on Twitter or, wherever. And all they're doing is just giving you more Twitter.
They are. It's like you're basically buying. It's like paying for a chick track or something.
But you know who's not? Manga. So where do you think they're going to spend their money?
Manga. So some of the top talent that propelled DC Comics and Marvel Comics have moved on to creator-owned titles, digital-first books, or opportunities elsewhere. This happened back in the 90s, too. Basically, when there was an implosion, and remember, we did a video on this, that according to The Motley Fool, another comic book industry implosion can never happen. That's just a 90s thing.
Like Brandon Fraser.
Like Brandon Fraser.
Why, he's just a flash in the pan back for nostalgia.
Yeah, right? But people moved into video games or moved into Hollywood or whatever because that's where the money was. That's where the money and the opportunity and the future was. And a lot of, comic book creators moved on. Even guys like Todd McFarlane, yeah, he still does comics, but he's into other media and he's got a very successful toy company. And that's where most of his money comes from now, toys. Mm-hmm. He basically, Todd McFarlane, he sells a lot of Spawn comics, but he can afford to make comic books because his other revenue streams bankroll everything.
Right. Doesn't mean he's making money at it.
Doesn't mean he's making money at it. He might just be
not making much.
Yeah, not compared to toy sales or whatever else he's doing, right?
Like, just cut the shit.
Oh my God. Media saturation. Oh my God, we're going to go there. You might think that superheroes' decade-long domination of the box office, television, and now streaming could only help the sales of comics. Sometimes it does.
When the publishers coordinate releases of archival material with new seasons of hit shows or movies. Basically, when they offer the characters as they're shown on the screen, they do well. What a concept!
So this is what broke Marvel back in 2017, led to the ousting of their editor, was the MCU was at its peak. And what did Marvel do? They chose that particular point in time to replace all of the Avengers. When people wanted Steve Rogers and Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, and what they did is they replaced everybody with a bunch of young stand-ins, and it failed miserably because Dad took the kids to the comic shop and said, here, let's go buy some comic books. We just got out of theater. We went and watched Infinity War. Let's go read some Tony Stark. But there is no Tony Stark. There's only Riri Williams.
I'm just it's all my strength I have not to flip my chair right now. I'm just like so...
Oh my God. So they said Marvel and DC have not been charitably, but not. What the hell? Again, YouTubers said this.
Just rip out the Band-Aid and stop talking in circles.
Stop talking in circles, Rob. You can say it. It's safe to say it now. The comic book industry is effing screwed. It's been a death by 1,000 cuts. The writing has been, well, these people have been so eager to dunk on YouTubers whose politics they didn't like.
But they didn't even know what their politics were. They just assumed.
They just assumed. that they've been so eager to dismiss them, these armchair critics, that they actually threw the baby out with the bathwater. And when they're, these comic book fans, a lot of them lifelong comic book fans were saying, hey, the comic book industry is broken, and you willfully chose to ignore it. In fact, you tried to spin a narrative, and I'm going to go out to the beat because Heidi McDonald is one of the ones who
I was going to mention too. And then they had the whisper networks trying to get people ousted and all that shit that were doing stories people wanted to sell. And then real quick, they were talking like on the list, like things like Heartstopper was selling well. You wanted to push agenda, but the thing is, people who are going to buy those books are going to buy Heartstopper. They're not going to buy your superhero comic with the same agenda in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't want your superhero books. You're better to stay with the audience that wanted you than to try to court an audience that really didn't.
Yeah. So James Gunn, he tweeted some very odd projects coming out for DC, and a lot of them are back issues.
Mm-hmm.
The
back issues are starting to sell like crazy because you were picking them up because of these new stories.
And back issues kept the comic book retailers afloat. That's everybody's like, oh, comics are fine, comic shops are fine. No, people were going back and they were buying back issues.
We talked to so many comic shops, and they all said the same thing. What we're selling is back issues.
And a lot of them are not buying new issues or selling new issues at all. They're selling trades, they're selling manga, they're selling back issues. I can think of 2 or 3 comic shops that I was a regular at that said, hey, we're not even doing new issues. Because again, like the one we went to the other day, wall of unsold.
3 walls.
3 walls. 3 walls? 3 walls.
1, 2,
3.
No,
yeah.
Was it 3? No, it was 2.
Well, it's a pretty
1, 2.
big
Yeah, okay,
wall.
you're right. It was 2, but the one wall was like huge. It's the size. It's the size of 2 walls.
And the shit's sitting there. Some of those books were there. We were there a couple of months ago, and those books are still sitting there. Or it's just another passing squall. Never mind me. Maybe I'm being a silly Billy, despite all the.
Don't cancel me.
Don't cancel me, despite all the structural reasons why superhero comics might be in big trouble. Anyone who has been a fan for longer than a decade knows this is how the business works. There are booms and busts, explosions and implosions, and infinite. It's okay. It's okay. It's probably going to be fine. Don't worry, guys. It's going to be totally.
Well, then, if you thought
cool.
it was going to be fucking fine, why did you waste all this time writing an article? Basically, you want to make a point, but you're too much of a coward to actually just call it out like it is. You have to sugarcoat it because you don't want to hurt the fifis of a bunch of people who might come after you because, they're mad. But the truth's the truth. No matter how much you pour honey on it, it's still a giant turd in the middle.
That's exactly it. And you're actually doing the industry a massive disservice by lying.
You can't fix a problem if you don't recognize the problem and acknowledge it to begin with.
Like Heidi McDonald, for all her I'm championing comics, and I'm going to basically say exactly the opposite of what the YouTubers say because I don't want to, I'm against those guys. You are doing the comic book industry a massive disservice because you should have been sounding the alarm.
No, they're too afraid of these people. They're so afraid of the ones you got rid of all these people, and now you got what you wanted. The people that you have in there now are the ones you picked, the ones that went after everybody else. They're all gone. So the only people left to go after are you. When you tell the truth and they don't want to hear it, they're going to come after you. And y'all know it. So now you're just, just trying to skirt the issues. You're trying to call them out, but in a nice way so that they see the truth without hurting their feelings. But you cannot fix a problem if you don't acknowledge that there's a problem. And some of the people that you don't want to offend are the problem.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. I'm not going to flipping pat you on the back and tell you, it's okay.
And they're going to turn on you. They're absolutely going to turn on you, but you created the monster. You gave these people a cookie for years.
They eat you last?
They eat you last. They're going to eat you, but they're going to eat you last.
And they're afraid of them. They're so afraid of these people that they put in there that they are like talking around the issues. There's a problem, but don't worry. It's it might not be that way. And maybe that's just my perspective. And maybe I'm wrong. It's okay. It's okay. It'll be okay.
Not to disparage any of the hardworking men and women in comics. Please don't.
What about non-binary people?
Oh,
how offensive of you. Well, you're just gendering everyone.
I don't know what to tell you. This is you, comic book media, helped create this problem by perpetuating the lie that
they didn't help. They pretty much created it. Them and their friends.
Yeah, you created the lie that comics were fine. Everything was good. It's all good here. So these retailers stupidly listen to these media outlets. Oh, things are great. People love this stuff.
So did the publishers. They did what these people wanted. They trust us. This is what people want.
Yeah.
They listened, and now it's gone to shit. And the thing is, if they had just been honest, even when they started to see there was trouble, and they just called this stuff out, like, the YouTubers that you hate, and you've been honest and said that there's a problem, instead of labeling them Comicsgate, if you had acknowledged the problem, you could have course corrected before the train was in the ravine.
And now it's on fire. And now there's going to be acid rain.
That was too soon.
Too soon for that?
Too soon.
We live too close to that.
I know, too soon.
Anyway, all right, we're going to wrap this up.
Yes.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.